Last weekend, I went to my first comic convention, and these are 10 things that I learned. I'll talk about the money I made and lost at the end, so let's go. Number 10, variety is the spice of life. I went into the con with 3 different books and 9 different prints, and this was my setup. Compared to other indie creators, I had about half of what they had, which was to be expected. But a third of my prints were all Halo related, which I didn't realize until I got there. And that's great for a Halo convention, but it wasn't a Halo convention. And to be fair, I did sell one of them, but it probably would have been better if I had a bit more variety. Number 9, go with a partner. If you can, team up with someone, whether that's a friend, a fellow artist, or a family member, because you'll feel a bit less lonely, a bit less awkward, and it will give you both the chance to get up and walk around and speak to other artists, which was something I wasn't really able to do, partly because I didn't have a partner, and partly because of crippling anxiety. It also helps to have someone there if you need to go for a wee or to get some coffee. Number 8, make it easy to pay. I'd recommend grabbing a card machine. They're really cheap and super easy to use. I won't say which one I used because I'm not being sponsored, but it rhymes with rum cup. If I didn't have a card machine, I would have missed out on 2 or 3 sales. Most people do bring cash, but they may have run out or they may not have quite enough by the time they get to you. So card payments may be their only option. Number 7, make it easy to browse. If you've got multiple copies of your prints, keep the copies under the table. As people were browsing through my prints and they saw 2 of the same one, they started browsing quicker to get to the next new one that they hadn't seen. Whereas if there's just 1 copy of each, they will go through each one more slowly and there's more chance that they'll find something that they may want to buy. I actually did a test and had double prints on the first day and single prints on the second day, and I sold more on the second day than the first, including this one while Charlie Adlard was in the room. Sorry, Charlie, and thank you. Does that mean I'm better than Charlie Adlard? Well, you can say, but yes it does. Number 6, make it easy to read. One thing I didn't do was have my books open on the table. That's mostly because I didn't have enough space, but I do wonder whether if I had them open, people would have read through them more easily. I had them on the table like this, as display models, and then the wrapped and ready to go ones were behind them on the stands. Either way, whether that's true or not, you need to make it as easy as possible for the punters to look through your stuff. Number 5, price list. Having a price list front and center is important for obvious reasons, although I did notice a few people didn't bother looking at it, which was fine. I made this for the A6 prints that I was selling on the second day, and quite a few people asked me how much they were, even though it was right in front of the prints. A lot of the punters are probably going to feel as awkward as you are, so you need to try and make them feel as comfortable as possible. My charisma level is quite low, so I probably didn't help with that, but it certainly helps to. Number 4, talk. This is a hard one for me. I'm socially awkward, but I am getting better, largely thanks to this YouTube channel, which is nice. But if you're anything like me, you would have imagined exactly what you wanted to say and it would have sounded perfect, and then you actually open your mouth and you sound like a maniac. But I listened to my neighbours at what they said, and a lot of them said the same thing to almost everyone. So it's worth noting down some phrases like feel free to browse and just practice saying that with a smile and eye contact, which is really hard to do for us. But it's worth it. Some people feel that because it's a display table and it's almost like an exhibition, that they're not sure whether they're actually allowed to touch things. So try to make them feel really comfortable, and by having that phrase and repeating it, you're reminding them that they can and should touch your stuff. And I know it's hard, but if you practice it, it should make it a bit easier. That's definitely something I wish I had done before I went, because I was just sat there dying inside from the awkward social interactions. Number 3, draw. I was nervous about the prospect of drawing in front of people in case I f***ed it up or I just wasn't feeling it that day. So I penciled something the previous day so I could bring something that I knew I was pretty much comfortable with, and then I could just take my time inking it. Now, you don't want to be drawing for every second because there will be people walking past who feel that they won't be able to interrupt you. So make sure that you look up every now and then. This helps if you have a partner, obviously. Number 2, print business cards. You may have heard that business cards are a bit old hat and out of fashion, but that's bullshit. I had about 20 people take my card, and if just one of them becomes a follower on Instagram or finds this YouTube channel or asks me for a commission later on down the line, it would have been totally worth it. I also have one of these NFC cards, which is kind of cool, but I would recommend, if you had to choose between the two, get your traditional business cards. That's because some people don't necessarily have the technology to use the chip that's in the NFC card, and they may not have internet access at that time, and so it was kind of a waste. I speak from experience because I only had the NFC card for my degree show, and that was an error because of those reasons. So have both if you can afford both, but if you have to choose one, choose the basic business cards. And number 1, be prepared. I'd read before I went to cons that they were pretty exhausting, and they were not wrong. If you've ever been nervous for long stretches of time, you know how exhausting that can be. Also, the chairs aren't the most comfortable, so consider bringing a cushion with you. Also, scout out where the toilets are and where you can get food and drink, but you should definitely bring food and drink with you. And bring an emergency kit as well, containing things like scissors, tape, blue tack, extra bags, extra pens, pencils, anything you think you might need, bring it.
Just bring it, bitch!
And finally, make sure you have sufficient change on you. Like I said, most people are bringing cash, and they may not have the exact amount for your prints or your comic books, so make sure you have change to give them, because otherwise you will miss out on sales. And they're the major points that will hopefully make your first convention run as smoothly as possible. The final thing I would add to all of this is that when you're picking a particular convention, try and go for a cheap one where possible. Here in the UK, some tables can reach 300 quid, which to me is extortionate, but it is the way it is. Most of those are for the branded comic cons, and that means that there's usually more people that go there. But most people who go there aren't necessarily going for you, and to be honest, they're not necessarily going for comics either. So I don't know whether it's worth it, but I can't speak from experience yet. So if you have the money, go for it. If not, go for a cheaper option. And speaking of money, I made about £110 over the course of 2 days, which covered the cost of my table, which was really nice, and had a little bit extra as well. That being said, when I total everything together, I still made a loss, and a loss of about £300 in total. Next week, I'm going to break down the cost of everything that went into my first comic convention. I've been Brinkley, have fun drawing, and I'll see you next week.